It is Linda Talafero. And yes, of course, you know, because you follow me, you watch these lives, either live or on the replay. So you know what I'm going to say. It is my favorite time of the week. Favorite time of the week because it's being done at work live. And for those of you that are new, Linda Talafero from the Extra Effort. And yes, this is Being Brown at Work Live, where I come on every first and third Tuesday live to share with you some inspiration, motivation, and also just really openly talk about challenges that we as Black and Brown women face in the workplace. And I am always honored to have these fantastic women as guests. And today I get the extreme honor to have one of my clients actually say yes and become a guest on this session. This beautiful woman you're going to see here. This is going to be a great conversation. So you want to get your pen and paper. You're make sure you take a lot of notes because she's going to share some gems specifically around her experience in working with me. A lot of you ask that question. You'll send me an email, you'll send me a DM, and it's hard for me to respond in an email what the experience is like. And frankly, I really don't want you to hear it from me. I want you to hear it from people like C.C. Grant, who walked this journey with me. We actually were engaged for a couple of years. So that's why I decided to reach out to her and have her as a guest. So, Cece, welcome to Being Brown at Work Live.
Thank you, Linda. I'm excited and happy to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor for me. So let's open it up, Cece. Usually, I have guests and I read bios, but I didn't want to do that for you. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. So tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm C.C. Grant. I am an HR professional, have been working in the field for nearly 10 years now. Like Linda said, I've worked with her for a couple of engagements over the last 2 years that have been really beneficial. Throughout my career, I've worked in a number of industries and sectors from media to higher education to the airline industry. It's been just a bevy of different industries and sectors, but HR is my passion. It's my love. It's what I'm currently doing and have been doing for a while. And during my engagements with Linda, that is the industry and sector that I was in.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Cece. Yeah, I mean, just depth and breadth of experience in human resources. So, Cece, a lot of people that I come across really struggle trying to determine, do I really need an executive coach? I don't think so. I'm just dealing with some microaggression here and there, or, I might have a confidence issue, but, I'll fix that. Or I seem to be just stuck. It's just been a couple of years though, 3, 5 years. I'm sure I'll get unstuck. They're not really, they don't get it, right? They don't know that working with someone like myself would be beneficial. What made you decide? Was there something that happened? Was there an incident or was it a process? What made you decide that, yes, this is time I need an executive coach?
I think it was all of those things that you mentioned. And being a Black woman at work, naturally, I'm going to experience microaggressions, and I had experienced that throughout my career. I was even though I was in a new role in a new company, probably I think maybe at the 6 month or close to a year mark when we first engaged, I wasn't feeling stuck, but I wasn't feeling like I was propelling my career in the ways that I felt
Mm,
I should have been at that point and at that level. And unfortunately, I never felt like I got the support or the mentorship throughout my career that I really needed and could have used to navigate my trajectory a bit better. It was always just
yeah.
me figuring it out on my own. And I was just at the point where I'm like, I need some help. I need some additional assistance, and I wanted to look for an executive coach or a leadership coach. And so I just started that process, and it led me to you. Thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so glad you shared that because not every time do we actually have a specific incident, right? Or just one of the things that I mentioned that are occurring. It's usually a mirage of those, right? But fundamentally there is this inner feeling that we're just not getting where we know we can be, or where we should be. And then we're not clear about the way to get there, right? And why we haven't been able to accomplish that. So when you decided, okay, look, I know I need some external help. I need an external voice. Maybe I need a different or fresher perspective, some other methodologies. What was your process? Because I know what it was because I was part of the process. And
Yes.
you were no joke by no means, and I respected
Yeah.
it highly and was honored when I was chosen. But what was your process? How did you go about deciding to choose me and to work with me? Can you share with our audience?
Yeah, my experience is probably similar to most Black and Brown women, being the only or being one of a few or a couple in the room, and trying to make those connections with people that look like you and people that don't look like you. Some of them being successful, some of them not being successful, and for me, it was them being successful, but them not being as long term as I wanted. So the maintenance of the
Mm,
relationship. And I was trying to understand if that was an issue with me or if it was an issue with the other party. And so a lot of the times when I had mentorship and coaching, it didn't come from women that physically looked like me. It came from white women. And their experience is very different from mine. So a lot of the things that they were telling me to do didn't necessarily work for me, even though it had moved mountains for them. And so I knew that when I was looking for someone else to guide me on this path, I wanted someone that looked like me, someone that had probably had a shared experience or a same lived experience as me, someone that could help me navigate those waters and learn how to play the game, as people usually say, because I don't think that I'm always really good at it. And so it was very important for me to find a Black woman to do
mm,
that. And I did extensive research in that process. I mean, Google helped a lot. I asked people, and I interviewed with probably 5 coaches, and you were one of them. But meeting with you, there was just this intangible feeling, indescribable feeling when I met with you, that I was like, this is my person. And I think if you remember correctly, Linda, like I cried in that first
yes.
session with you. And I'm not a very vulnerable person. And so for me to do that in that session with you, that was the connection that was like, okay, this is the person that I want to engage with. And then after our call, you asked if I wanted to speak to someone that you were currently working with. And none of the other people that I had interviewed with
Mm,
had asked that. And I was like, wow, she offered. I didn't have to ask her. And so, I willingly accepted and I spoke to someone you were working with. And everything that she said about you just resonated with the feeling that I already had. And so I
mm.
was ready to pull the trigger after that conversation.
Mm, it's an honor. I remember the process and highly respected it. Monifa is joining with us live on LinkedIn, and she says, "Yes, I need a career coach. Would love to work with you, Monifa. So send me a
Do it,
message. We could."
do it, girl.
Send me a message. We can have a conversation. So that's what I really respected about your process, Cece, because what it spoke to me was your intentionality around shifting your career trajectory. You took this seriously. I mean, this was not just something that you said, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to, and we're going to get into this next part because your company paid, supported you in that because you had a boss that believed in you and your capabilities and to do that, and senior leadership did as well. But and some people could get that financial assistance or even invest themselves. I've seen it, and then just not be intentional. But that's what I knew when I was in that interview process. And you were very open. You were very open about, look, Linda, I'm talking to several coaches, and I'll make a decision. I knew then. I was like, hey, this is not somebody I'm going to have to drag to every session. This is not somebody I'm going to have to. No, that you were all in because you did the
Yeah.
work up front to make the selection, and it was an honor for me. So Cece, as before we dig into talking about, and I'd love for Monifa and other people that are listening to get some real live lived examples of engaging with me and how it benefited you. Before we get there, though, let's talk a little bit about how you got the support from your company to sponsor the engagement and for me to coach you. So, what was that process like for you?
It was really me. I like, so when I started with you, like I said, I had been with my company probably less than a year at that point. So it really took me looking around the room, learning the company, learning the organization, seeing how they were investing in other people. And I noticed that they were
Mm.
investing coaches in other people who had not asked, who didn't want them, but they felt they
Ah.
needed them. And so that was really the spin on how I presented it. It's like, listen, I'm a new hire here. I'm approaching a year. I'm enjoying my time. I want to grow as a professional and I want to grow as a leader within this organization. But I feel like I need some help. And I don't think that I will necessarily get the help that I'm specifically looking for from any of the leaders here. And so I would like an executive coach. And I see that you have invested an executive coach for XYZ person. I also
Mm.
see how well that is not going. And so I want you to know that if you make this investment in me, that I'm taking it seriously. It is a commitment for me, and you can be involved in the process. I want you to be involved in the process. And so I kind of pitched it that way. I think I put together by requirement, like an email or a one sheet of what I wanted. And my boss at the time was very supportive of it. I think shared it with our CEO and he was supportive of it. And they met with you and they
Yeah.
were like, okay, this is fine. We see how it's going to work, how we're going to be involved in the process, what's required of her, and we support it. And they thankfully put their money where their mouth was.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. For to extend the engagement as well. And
Yeah.
what was, for me, what was also beneficial in that and how you went about that, CC, is that yes, I did meet with your manager and we agreed upon, the way forward. And, he gave you the green light. And in addition, we had those checks along the way. That usually is how it works with company sponsored coaching, is that the manager is involved and engaged, but I do not share any of the coaching session, any of the content, anything. It's up to you as the coach if you decide to share that with them. My connection with the manager is just, hey, are we reaching the goals that you see, or do you see shift in the direction that you believed or was beneficial, and just to make sure they're engaged and they continue to support. And in your situation, he was continue as long as he was with the company, he was definitely engaged. He supported you, saw always gave positive feedback on the progress that you were making. So just wanted to make sure that, Monifa or anyone else that might be listening, whether, if your company's sponsoring you or even if they don't, that this type of process, there's intentionality and methodology around it. It is just not this fly by night kind of engagement. It really has context. And so, with that, let's talk about, let's give a little bit more detail regarding your experiences starting with me. And then as we went along, maybe you can share some specific pieces, that resonated with you. And remember, I'm going to open with one. And then
Okay.
if you could then jump in and share some others and how it's even benefited you now because your career continues to grow. So
It's
proud of you. It
it's
continues to
flying
grow.
high.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And I absolutely love it. But I remember initially, I mean, CC loved her to death. I love all my clients and all of my clients, Black and Brown women. We're just not trying to share. We're not opening up. We not ain't nobody's business where I went on vacation. Ain't nobody's business. Remember those conversations?
Yes.
Linda, what? They know my name is C.C Grant. That's all they need to know. I don't remember those conversations.
I'm a little
When
embarrassed right now, Linda.
when we were talking about the importance of just establishing who you are in the organization, and people establishing a level of comfort and building those relationships that turn into advocators, supporters, and potentially even sponsors. So share a little bit about that in the beginning, CC, for you, if you don't mind.
And yeah, that was very early on in our
Yes.
engagement. And like I said previously, I'm not very vulnerable, especially with people that I don't know, and not even all that often with the people that I do know and love. So I in that conversation with you is where I realized that I was not letting a lot of the people in my work life into my personal life, which they so much wanted to be. And I probably wasn't doing that because I didn't know how to do that in a way that was comfortable for me to just give them enough to be intrigued or interested or to know a bit more about me as a person outside of work. And
Yeah.
so through conversations with you, you helped me understand, okay, like when they asked, how was your weekend? And you said, I went to the beach. What else did you say? Nothing. I went to the beach. What? I went to the beach. That's all you need to know is I went to the beach. And you would look at me like, yeah, you got to give a little more than that. Oh, I went to the beach. Oh, we had a picnic. We had such good music. Or we sat next to this family and did this. Or the ride back was so long. Or I saw something interesting. Share little tidbits that aren't necessarily very personal, but something that is engaging, continues the
Yes.
conversation, and makes the other person feel like they're engaging with me on a level that is not just professional.
Exactly. And it's not just surface, and allows them to get to know a little bit more of who you are as a person and establishes a comfort level. It just brings that wall down, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in a work environment, we're going to work with each other, we're going to be in teams. Most of the initiatives we work on, people want to feel comfortable with the person they're
Yeah.
sitting next to or with the person they have to constantly engage. And it doesn't take you sharing your deepest, darkest secrets in order to establish that level of comfort or to build the relationship. And you heard me say this often, who we are personally is who we are professionally. So the
Mhm.
fact that you aren't very vulnerable with people that you know and love, you clearly are not going to be open and vulnerable with work people you see from 9 to 5, right?
Right.
Although you spend
Mhm.
a whole lot of time with those individuals, and 9 times out of 10, some of them are going to have a voice or impact in your career or in your position, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And that
Yes.
helped you open up to me as well.
Yes, it did. It did. And it helped me to, I guess, reframe my thinking about who I
Mm,
wanted to open up to. Because I want to be clear, like I make friends at work. Every job I
yes.
went to, I always left with a friend that is probably now one of my best and closest friends. It just seemed like to me sometimes a bit overwhelming when the people that didn't look
Mm,
like me
hmm.
always wanted, it seemed like they wanted a piece of me. They wanted more than I was willing to give. And it's like, this
Yeah,
is my job. This is where I work. And I want to create some kind of boundaries. And so you helped
yeah.
me understand more or less what those boundaries could look like and feel like for me. And so that was truly
Yes.
helpful.
Yes, yes. I'm glad you said that, Cece. Reframing it, because that's exactly what we did, right? We didn't
Mhm.
change you as a person. We
Oh,
just
no.
reframed your thought process around that ended up being beneficial for you as you
Yeah.
executed and showed up in the workplace. All right. So
Mhm.
share with me, share with our audience here the next thing or anything else that comes to mind immediately about our engagement and the impact that it had.
Um, so I think when you're working with Linda, and this is like to the people that are listening and considering her as a coach, I'm emphatically a fan. Just do it, like literally. But if you need some understanding, Linda has a program. And I think that was the other thing too, Linda, that helped me choose you. It was you and
Mm,
another Black woman, and you both had like really solid programs of what you wanted to walk your clients through, and they could be customizable to their own experiences or the learnings that they wanted. But I found that to be um, exemplary, that it wasn't
mm,
just you were going to take my money and guide me by happenstance. You had something solid and concrete. And so with the program with Linda in the beginning, she's really trying to understand who you are, what your career and professional journey has looked like, and helps you try and create some understanding around that as well, to understand what more do you want from this opportunity that you have with her. And so there
mhm,
was a list of questions that she had, and it was really like a reflection on past and present. And it asked me things like, like when you develop relationships, like how do you maintain those relationships, or what has that looked like for you in the past? Um, uh, like um, like if you had a work project and you felt it was really good and then you got negative feedback on it, like how did you assess that and how did you move forward with that? It was just a series of questions, probably 10, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I was so invested in answering those questions
Mm,
honestly because I knew that those questions were going to help me dig deeper into who I was and what it is that I really wanted from
yeah.
my work with Linda. And I was extremely honest. And after I submitted it to her and we talked about it, I started to reflect on it and really start to think, well, maybe in this situation where I gave an example, because every question required an example, where I gave an example, I could have done a bit more on my part,
Mm,
or it was maybe, you know what? No, I did everything I needed to do. That other
mm-hmm.
person could have done more and they didn't. So, what does that look like for me moving forward? The intentionality piece. How do
Yes.
I want to show up? How how much how intentional do I want to be with other people and like
Yes.
share that intention with them as well? And so the thing that I think I really got from working with you, Linda, I might be skipping ahead. I'm not sure what your
Oh, no
questions
worries. No worries.
is that you really helped me to understand how to show up as my authentic self because that was probably the thing that I was struggling with the most.
Yeah.
It's feeling like I had to play the game and I had to be someone other than who I really was at work. And it was exhausting. I was so tired. And
Yes.
I just was like, I just want to show up as Shaniqua,
Yeah.
not C.C Grant. Like you can call
So
me
glad
C.C
you said,
Grant,
yeah.
but I want to be Shaniqua. Like, and I feel like that also was is part of the vulnerability, giving more
Yes.
of me. Like when I speak, I throw in a lot of street slang. We're gonna spin the block. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And I wanted to be able to share those kind of colloquialisms in the workplace and
Yes.
have people understand that, oh, well, what either you're gonna like it or you're not. And if you don't like it, that's fine. If
Exactly.
you mesh with it, that's fine too. But I wanted to be more authentically me at work so that I wouldn't leave work feeling so exhausted from being at work and being someone that I wasn't.
Oh my gosh, Cece, Shaniqua. So glad you said your name. I'm that is, I mean, that's everything that you said, because that's fundamentally what my goal is every time I work with a black or brown woman. And that's why I niched out and focused on us, because there aren't, I mean, you said you talked to 2 out of the 5, right? There are not a lot of us out here doing this, reaching back, reaching across, and really sharing how you can show up authentically as yourself, black or brown woman, natural hair. I know how you wear your hair, various styles. I mean, show up. You are the look, audience, just so you know, she's a New Yorker too. So when she throws out some of the stuff, right? So, and really show up in the corporate environment as we are,
Yeah.
authentically. And some of what you shared of how we engage early in the content that I put together, that's part of my peel back, connect, and grow. So if some of you are at my website and you see PCG, what she's talking about is the peel back piece. When we do that reflective look, right? When we look at the past and assess it and really peel it back to see, as we're looking back, look at it and see it as it was, but then see it as it could have been, right? I mean, and that's part of that that I developed that helped me tremendously, and I share with my clients. I'm so glad you said it, Cece, because that's really all it's about. You can be, you can be successful like Shanique was been in her career, and be authentically you. It's just very hard sometimes to figure out how to get there, because
Mhm.
the landscape isn't naturally
Yeah.
supporting that. Sure, it's not
Yeah.
naturally supporting
Right.
that.
Every work environment doesn't support that. And
No.
so sometimes figuring out how to navigate that work environment to show up as your authentic self can be an exhausting process. But sometimes you just got to go through it. I'm just a believer that, all of the things that you go through are just leading you to something better, bigger, a
Yes.
growing experience. And so even though it's tough and it's hard, and sometimes you just feel like you're never going to see the other side, I'm just like, well, I'm still here. So there's going to
Yes.
be something better waiting for me way ahead in the future.
Yes, exactly. And you have accomplished that with the new role you just are in recently. You got there for sure. And to
Yeah.
all the people that we did together is really paying off and showing up for you. So if we could share one more, I usually wrap it, in 30 minutes or so. Cece, I would love if you could share one more example, maybe somewhere around emotional intelligence, maybe because I talk a lot about how important that is for us as Black and Brown women. So could you share something with our audience around your experience and working with me in that area, in that space?
Yeah, emotional intelligence is huge, especially in the line of work that I'm in human resources. I'm dealing
Oh,
with
yeah.
people every day, all different kinds of people from all walks of life. And so you have to have a high level of emotional intelligence. And, I also have a master's degree in negotiation and conflict resolution. And so learning about emotional intelligence was like a core component of my master's degree. And so I came to Linda like, no, I am highly emotional intelligent. Like, not to say that I don't need any work there, but I am pretty much better than most of my peers and most of the people I work with. And I still stand by that, but I'm human.
Yes,
Right. I still stand by
exactly.
that 100%, but I'm human. And, we all succumb to our emotions at some point. And
Sure.
in my last role, it was those last few months being in my last position at my last company were extremely challenging. The work environment was toxic for me. I won't speak for anyone else, but for me, it was toxic. And just trying to figure out how much longer I could stay here and
Yeah,
what what I needed to do to get out.
yeah,
And I had gotten a new manager, and from the onset, we did not mesh at all. And there was just so much interaction with this person that just didn't feel good to me at all. And it almost
yeah.
it was just terrible. And there was just one instance where I had a meeting with my manager and she said something to me, and it was a trigger.
Mhm.
And it triggered me to share everything that I had experienced at the company prior to her joining, with her joining, issues I had with her, issues I had with everyone else. And I blew up. I still maintained a very high level of professionalism, but it was completely unexpected from her, completely unexpected from me. And I was highly emotional, like
Mm.
shaking emotional, that when I left the meeting, I went back to my desk and I text Linda, I need to talk to you today. And Linda was like, I'm free now. Do you have time? And I said yes. And I went into a conference room and I shared with her everything that I did, everything that I said. And she just sat and she listened. And she was like, okay, Cece, I understand. Now, what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I feel like I just need to quit right now. And she was like, okay, that's fine too, but I'm going to help you figure this out and walk you through it. And so she gave me a couple of suggestions of things I should do and how I should move forward. And I said, okay. And I think, let's say it happened on a Thursday. Over the weekend, I thought about the whole thing and the advice that Linda shared with me. And I was like so embarrassed. I'm like, all this work that I did with this woman and all the stuff we talked about with emotional intelligence and how I should handle myself and how to be better and move forward in a better manner. And I just blew it all away in one moment because I couldn't control myself. And I remember I reached out to her, I believe on a weekend, and like sent her an email or a text. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. And she immediately extended so much grace to me. Like, you have to relax. You're human. It happens to everyone. She said, I didn't want to say anything to you at the time, but I didn't agree with what you did. She was like, but that wasn't my place to beat you up in that moment where you already were feeling kind of trepidatious about what just happened. And she said, so where do you want to go from here? What are your next steps? And so I shared with her what I was thinking. And worked with her to create a roadmap of what was next for me. But the grace that she gave me in that moment was probably what made me feel so good about choosing her as a coach, is that she didn't tell me, girl, you just threw away the X thousands amount of dollars and work that we did over the last 6 months in this one interaction. Like, I taught you better than it. She could have easily done that to me, but she didn't. And she just gave me the grace, allowed me to sit in myself. And she knew that there was going to be a reflection point for me and that I would come back to her saying the things that I said. And so she just waited. And so that is what you get with Linda. You get
Mm,
that high level of emotional intelligence from Linda. You get that empathy from Linda. And we all need it. I think, especially as Black women, we all need someone to to verbally tell us, you need to give yourself some grace. Because
grace.
I
Yeah.
feel like I just never give myself grace at all for anything. And that's just the one thing that I'm starting to learn. It's like, while I extend grace to other people, I need to extend it to myself as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. We don't, right? I mean, as Black and Brown women, because usually it comes from either our upbringing or our situations from professionally. I know for me, it was upbringing, education, and so it was throughout my entire life where I, just didn't have time for the grace. I mean, it just wasn't something that either was allowed or didn't have time for. And then I had to find out the hard way and that it's necessary and it's part of
Mhm.
totally allowing myself. And that's why you now, CC, show up authentically yourself strongly as well, because you take time to do that for yourself. It's so extremely important. Perfectionism is not our friend. I mean, this is a journey. I mean, you and I are still, we're engaged working monthly on executive presence now, because girl, you in this new role, which I again applaud,
Thank
because
you.
you've done the work to get there. But it's still a journey, right? I mean, and so, we've never fully arrived. We just get better and continuously improve and continuously walk authentically, purposefully, powerfully in
Yeah.
ourselves. And that's really what you have done as a client. It's been an honor to work with you, CC. It's an honor to work with all of my wonderful Black and Brown women that I have had in my been honored to serve. And I just thank you so much for taking time out. You're still at work; it's getting dark, and I appreciate you so much for taking time out of your day, time out of your evening to share your experience with me. Look, those of you that are watching this live, I appreciate you. Monifa, Nikki, I've seen your messages and chat. Thank you so much for your constant support. But if you're catching this on the replay, or even if it's live and you want to talk to me, send me a DM and IG. You can send me a message in LinkedIn, Facebook, email me, reach out, right? And I'd love to talk to you in more detail. And I'm sure Cece would not mind if you want to talk to her, one on one, and get even more information of what it's like to work with me. That's always available.
Yep.
And Monifa said, thank you for sharing, Cece. She's joining us on LinkedIn. So she's available and we can make that connection if need be. Again, Cece, thank you so much. It was an honor. You have a great
My
rest of your
honor,
evening.
Linda. I always tell you, you have been invaluable to me. And so, I'm
Mm.
grateful to not only call you like my executive leadership coach, but I consider you to be a friend now. So it's my
Oh,
honor to help
wonderful.
propel you and help propel other women that are considering working with you. Just do it.
Mm. Thank
That's
you so
all I
much,
can say.
Cece. Okay, everyone. Until next time.